Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is Robin. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go like, subscribe and share. Today's video is a follow-on from my previous cabin crew video. I get so many questions, so many messages in my inbox about anything related to cabin crew. So I wanted to answer some questions, help you prepare for an interview, and yeah, that's it. So the questions I get about the interview are, what's the interview like? What does it entail? What do they ask you? So before you go to the interview, just be prepared, have done your research as well, because they're going to ask you things like, who's the CEO? Other things I was asked in my interview are things like, where are we based? So Easyjet have got bases in Edinburgh, London Luton, Gatwick. They want to know that you know where they're based and where you could potentially be operating from. They'll also ask you where they fly to. They might say, give me 3 places that we fly to. Tel Aviv in Israel, Ibiza in Spain, and Reykjavik in Iceland. They want to know that you know geography. They may ask you how many countries we fly to, or how things like that. Like they fly to over 35 countries, 1,000 different routes. So I've got my laptop here, just with like stuff so I don't forget. So yeah, before you go to the interview, just be prepared. It is a really long day. I remember leaving the interview with a headache because it was just such a long, intense type of day. Drink loads of water, get an early night's sleep the night before, and go in there knowing that you've done your research. The day of the interview, tips that I was given before I went were things such as try and stand out. So wear a bright colour, like if you're wearing a blazer, wear a bright orange blazer, bright blue blazer, just so you don't blend in and they can separate you from other people. This is maybe 10 years ago, I reckon. So this is what happened when I went. And I'm guessing it wouldn't have changed that much, but it could have changed a little bit. But yeah, you go in and there's a group exercise, and the group exercise is things like, they may say you're stranded on an island. What would you need? Discuss it in a group, and they'll give you a list of things that you need, and you would have to discuss it from important to not important, and come up with an agreement of why you've decided that. And there'll be maybe 10 of you in a group, and what they're looking for is they're looking to make sure that you know how to communicate effectively, get your point across, you can listen, you don't interrupt people, and just to see how you can give direction as well. Because obviously when you're working in the air, you need to be able to communicate well and effectively. If you pass the interview and you get accepted, what to expect with your training, prior to your training actually, you need to provide them with like all of your employment history, and they do checks. They get a company to do checks with every single one of them. And if you've had any gaps in your employment history, you need to submit a personal reference, someone that knew you throughout that time that's not a family member, just so there's no gaps at all in your employment. Somebody did ask me about medical tests, about like urine tests and things like that. And this is on my previous video, and I actually said no, because I couldn't remember, but I think there are like medical tests to make sure you're physically fit enough to do the role. I just can't remember exactly what they were. I don't ever remember doing a urine test, but maybe there were like urine tests. So yeah, you need employment history, you need to provide them potentially with medical information. You need to have your height and weight in proportion so that you can fit into the jump seat harness without like an extender belt or anything like that. You need to be able to swim, I think it's about 25 meters unaided. And the swimming exercise, I don't feel like it was as bad as people expect it to be. You're in a pool, there's the whole group of you that has passed, so maybe 40 of you in a pool, and they'll get you just to stay afloat in the water for maybe a minute or so, and then they'll throw a life jacket in, and you need to be able to put the life jacket on you, tie it up, and then swim a length of the pool. And if you're struggling, like, people in your group do help you. Like, if you're struggling to stay afloat whilst you're doing it, you can lean on your friend, because in a real situation, there would be people helping you. So yeah, it's not as intense as some people do think it is. What other things have I written down? As part of the training, you do like fire training as well, where I'm sure they set like a cabin, there's like an aircraft on the ground, and I'm pretty sure it was like set on fire, and you have to go in with a fire extinguisher and put out the fire, and you have to be able to communicate it to the captain. So it's like a role play scenario. You need to communicate to the captain what's going on in the cabin, put the fire out, as well as communicating with your colleagues. You need to put a fire hood on, I don't know what it's called, a fire hood on, and you put the fire out, you go out, and you have to do it in a certain time frame. And that was actually really fun. So yeah, that's something to look forward to if you do pass. And yeah, that's the training. A lot of it is classroom based, but there are like role play scenarios. So you'll do like your demos and things. And then you'll do like, they'll give you papers where you have like a normal test, and you'll just practice them, go over them, and then they'll give you a date, they'll give you like a manual, and you'll study for like 2 weeks, the manual, you read it, you'll work it out in class, and you just do the test. If you don't pass, you just retake it. In my group specifically, I remember there was one girl that didn't pass, and she retook it and joined the following month's roster. So it wasn't like a massive deal if you didn't pass it first time, but you can't fly until you do pass it with a certain percentage. Tattoos, I get asked loads about tattoos because I had like visible tattoos. When I was, I'm guessing it probably has changed now, because I know BA do allow you to have tattoos. So it probably has changed. At the time, it was fine to have tattoos, but you needed to be able to cover them. So you could wear a plaster, put some concealer on it, or just have them, like if you had a sleeve, you could just wear a long sleeve shirt, or just keep your blazer on, or whatever. So yeah, you are allowed tattoos, they just need to be covered. But I believe it probably has changed now, in all honesty. Your height, I mentioned height and weight before. Your height, I think minimum is 5'2", maximum is 6'3" with no shoes on. You need to be able to stand up and put stuff in the overhead lockers. So that's why there's a height requirement. Let me see if there's any other questions. So another question I had was, do you have to maintain a particular image? Whilst working, you do have to wear, I don't know if you have to wear like foundation, but you do need to have your hair quite neat. There are makeup standards and rules, nail varnish standards and rules, hairstyle standards and rules. You weren't allowed to wear a high bun because you couldn't put your fire hat on. So there are guidelines that you need to follow. If you wear lipstick, it has to be a certain shade. If you wear nail varnish, it has to complement the Easyjet uniform. Somebody else has said, how does the shift schedule work? You get a roster, so you get a monthly roster. So it'll be like 6 weeks before, it's every 6 weeks or so, but in advance. And on the roster, it'll tell you every single flight that you've got. And there was a system with Easyjet where you could actually swap your flights. There was like a swapping system. So if you knew that on Tuesday you didn't want to fly because you had something planned, you could put your schedule up and somebody else could bid on it and swap for something else. And it worked really, really well. Yeah, so with the flights, you would know in advance what flights you've got, what days you're working. The only thing I would say is sometimes your flights would get changed. Like you'd log on and there'd be like a notification that a flight's been changed. And that was what made it very difficult to plan your own life around it, because as much as you think, okay, I've got this for the month, and you know exactly where you're flying, what time you've got to be there, you might plan to meet up with your friends. A couple of days before the flight, it could just be changed. There's nothing you can do about it, apart from try and swap. So yeah. Somebody asked me, can I ask where you got your cabin crew shoes from? I got mine from Marks and Spencer's. They were really comfortable. They were the heels. On board, you're allowed to wear flats, but when you're walking to and from the aircraft through the airport, you have to wear your heels. Somebody asked, do you think they will allow a headscarf? I'm pretty sure you're allowed to wear a headscarf. But I think, again, it has to be in colours that complement the uniform. So like black, I can't imagine them letting you wear orange, but I think black or like a neutral type colour. Somebody else asked, is swimming mandatory for Easyjet crew? Yeah, with any cabin crew you have to be able to swim. Hope I've answered some more of your questions. Again, if you do have any other questions, I haven't answered anything thoroughly enough, leave me a message in the comment box. If you're unsure on anything or you need help with anything, send me a message. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you in the next video.